Good morning. Sorry for the late start. We had some technical problems. I asked Mr. Brown if I could talk with you today because this month is Black History Month, and I realised there was only one Thursday thought for the day left, and I hadn't talked with anyone about it. As ever, I'm sharing my thoughts with you. You don't have to agree with me. I have sent out an email to your tutors with some links to the ideas that I'm going to refer to this morning. When I started writing this piece, I thought I knew what I wanted to say to you, to talk about being anti-racist, about the need for our community to talk about racism and challenge old ways of thinking. Then the subject got away from me, and there were so many things I wanted to say that this is now the third version. I think I know how you feel with your EPQs. So I'm going to tell you some of what I've learned, how teachers in Shiplake are trying to actively help us be more inclusive, and what you can do if this resonates with you. I have always been non-racist, but this summer, events such as the death of George Floyd, amongst others, and the BLM protests meant that I was forced to realise that being non-racist or colourblind is not enough in order for things to change. The great actor Morgan Freeman would disagree with me. He believes that talking about racism perpetuates racism. I've included a link to an interview with him in my email. In contrast, I highly recommend a TED Talk by John Bywin called The Lie That Invented Racism. In it, he explains that even though ancient civilizations discriminated, enslaved, and committed genocide, they did so based on culture. Skin colour wasn't an issue. Then, in 1450, when the Portuguese slave traders were establishing the slave trade in West Africa, the King of Portugal paid for a book to be written which claimed that people of black or dark skin were inferior or even bestial. This lie was used to justify the slave trade and protect the profits made from it. I also recommend the book Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo-Lodge. In this book, Ms. Edo-Lodge explains that she is tired of trying to describe discrimination she has experienced as a black woman and being told by white people that she has misunderstood what has happened to her. An article in the British newspaper, The Guardian, published on Sunday, had this to say: "For young people who took part in the summer's protests, this year's Black History Month is arguably one of the most important since it was first celebrated in the UK in 1987. From a global pandemic in which people of colour have died disproportionately and will shoulder the brunt of its economic repercussions, to the killing of George Floyd and the resurgence of the global Black Lives Matter movement, this year has forced many people to see and openly discuss the reality of institutional racism for the first time. Black History Month, which starts this week, is a chance to highlight the achievements and contributions of Black people through the ages and the many day-to-day struggles and barriers to progress they still face. Many young people believe the quality and scope of Black history covered in schools needs to be re-evaluated." The paper goes on to talk to 4 young Black activists to discover how they feel about Black History Month. Each young person wanted Black contributions and issues to be integrated into the education they received. The Guardian is publishing a large number of articles to celebrate Black History Month, and again, the link is in my email. Every Shiplake teacher whom I discussed this subject with agreed that we need to teach a more representative curriculum. Already, our teachers are helping students to identify social misrepresentation, Black history, social injustice, and day-to-day racism. For example, not whether you are able to buy a plaster for your own skin tone. Some of our teachers have rewritten or are rewriting lessons and broadening the subjects we teach to enable students to be better informed about racism and its devastating effects globally. All these teachers recognise that we still need to do more, and perhaps we can arrange a session where they can talk to you about the amazing things they're doing. An excellent website that Mr. Lloyd directed me to is Hope Not Hate. The link is in the email. So, what can you do? This is a short list of actions suggested by Amy Hunt in an article published this June in Woman and Home. I know that's another publication you all love. Firstly, educate yourself by reading. Don't ask people of colour you know to explain institutionalised racism to you. You are putting the burden of knowledge on someone else. Amazon's best-selling books about civil rights and racism is a really good place to start. Follow people of colour who are writers, academics, and educators on social media. There are many activists, educators, and brands whose posts, speeches, articles and voices are important to listen to right now. You can donate to important causes. There are ways to donate to protests, to organisations standing for racial equality, and to the families of victims of racism. Sign petitions. It took 46 years of letter writing and campaigning to end slavery. So if you want to change the world, you better get writing now. And yet, we have an overwhelmingly white population in this school. So if you are white, perhaps you're asking, why should we bother learning about what it has been and what it is to be Black in the UK? Well, I believe that not actively trying to make the world a more equal place means passively supporting inequality. If I don't try to change something that is wrong, I allow it to continue. As Edmund Burke once said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil, I'm going to start that one again. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And I would now change the end of that quote for good people to do nothing. History is not just something that happened 200 years ago. History is happening now. What we do today will be history tomorrow. What we do now matters. Have a lovely day. It's so sunny. And if you would like to speak to any of your teachers about Black History Month, I'm sure they would love to engage with you. Bye-bye.